So I'm just gonna check on my phone to make sure we actually are live
Mhm.
so I can see the comments. And try to respond. Okay. Okay, we are. So
Right.
we will go. So, hello, everybody. Hello, world. Hello, Facebook. I am Dr. Tamia Austin, the executive director of the As One Foundation, where our mission is to empower families globally, delivering life saving sickle cell education. And we do that in a number of ways. Right now, we are entrenched in a campaign to raise awareness about marrow donations, specifically needed from the Black American population, people 18 to 44 years old. It's kind of interesting, especially with our guest today, why that is. But I'll just give you some brief statistics and then we'll jump right in with our guest of honor today. So, according to the Be the Match, which is the donor registry for bone marrow, African Americans or Black Americans represent the probability of needing the services of the registry, possibly a bone marrow transplant, 27% of the time. They have a 27% chance of needing the services of the Be the Match registry. However, only Black Americans only represent 4% of the registry. So there is a severe imbalance there of
Mhm.
what is needed versus what could be needed. And so we, the As One Foundation, is engaged in a life-saving campaign to increase that number of Black American registrants between 18 to 44 so that we can, at least match the number of the probability, the 27% probability. So with that said, we have a number of other things that we're engaged in, but we'll talk about those later. Today is all about bone marrow transplant,
Mhm.
and maybe we can even dispel some myths, because when you say bone marrow transplant, that sounds so, oh my God, do you have to break my bone or something? And I actually have heard that said before, so I'm
Uh-huh.
not just making that up.
Yep.
But our guest today
Mhm.
is a magnificent warrior. She was born with sickle cell. And I'm going to say her name and I'm going to let her tell you her story. But I would like to just say, on behalf of the As One Foundation, myself, and all of those that are interested, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to have you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, Kay-Diene Robinson.
Thank you, Miss Me, Dr. Tamia. I appreciate it so much for having me. It is an honor and it's a blessing. But yes, my name is Kay-Diene Robinson, and I just want to thank God for this opportunity. But yes, I'm Kay-Diene Robinson. I'm 31 years old. I was born with sickle cell SS disease. And throughout my life, I didn't have that many casualties. My mom kept me under wraps and made sure she was a helicopter mom. So she was on top of me. But when I transitioned from New Jersey, where I was born, into Orlando, I fell out of care. But I was fine. I didn't really have any issues, didn't really have any problems because my body liked the warm weather in Florida.
When you say
Um,
you fell out of care, is that what you said?
yes. So
What do you mean by that?
when I turned 13, 14, I was under a pediatric provider in New Jersey. And when I moved to Florida, I didn't get back into care with anyone. And so I was out of care for about 6, 7 years until things started to go awry for me.
Okay.
But throughout high school, college, didn't have any problems until About 2011, 2012, that's when my crises started to amp up a little bit more because I was working, you know, trying to hold down a job, you know, being a big girl, like, you know, like all young adults that want to do. I was 22, 23 at the time.
So
And
can we just
mhm,
stop right there, because I love to highlight the fact that warriors or people living born with sickle cell are really no different from anybody else.
yeah, yeah,
That this whole transition conversation is that's particularly important there when you think about, okay, we have these warriors, they've been in pediatric care, they've been, you know, monitored by mom and dad or whoever the caregiver is,
mhm,
and now we need to wait, we need to start transition at 13, or we need to start transition at 15.
mhm,
And I can tell you there are some parents that say, well, maybe we should start having these conversations earlier. And there are some that say, well, let's just wait until they're 16, 17. But the point I raise right now is,
mhm.
you sound like a typical 16, 13,
Yeah,
22-year old that wanted to experience independence, wanted to live on your own, all of the
yeah,
above. And that is not, you know, unique to just sickles, you know, that's not unique to people living with or without sickle cell. That's just a normal young
yeah.
person. Just wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, when you, outside of, and not to discredit anybody living with sickle cell, I mean, it is a difficult disease to live with, but we are like everybody else.
Yeah.
Only thing that's different is we get pain and other complications that go along with our lives. But for the most part, we hold down jobs, we're in school, we are married, we have children. So we don't, you know, succumb to our disease and we don't allow it to take us over. I mean, we have our mental health issues. There are some with, you know, issues like myself, but other than that, there's really no differentiation between me and another person who has sickle cell who doesn't have sickle cell.
Right. And let's just put a pin in this point, because you
Mhm.
said that the only difference is pain. And I
Among other things, but yeah, that's the
yeah,
highlight.
well, I think because a lot of people really need to understand that the pain of sickle cell, and I heard Dr. Lakia Bailey of the
Mhm.
Sickle Cell Community Consortium say the other day on a really great panel about the marrow transplant, that this pain is not like a headache that goes
Oh
away,
God.
or
No.
you know, you bump your, it is a
Uh-uh.
progressive pain. And
Mhm.
you know, not to get bogged down into the science of it, but when those blood cells are trying to get through the narrow
Yes.
veins and such, they're causing damage
Yeah.
that piles upon damage and piles upon damage. So even if you could just imagine stretching and bruising of your blood cells,
Mhm.
and the cumulative damage that happens, that results in hip replacements, or you know, other joint replacements,
Yes.
or organ removal because the damage is too great to overcome.
Oh
That
yeah.
is the type of pain that is the result of what is happening in the body. So it's, we're not talking about, you
Oh
know,
yeah. It's not.
minor headache pain.
No. No. No.
And
No.
it's progressive.
No.
You know,
It
the
is definitely
older
not
you
that.
get, the more complex the issues are.
Yes, very
So
much so.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that this is not, you know,
No. No.
everyday
No.
pain.
I don't
Even
want
though
to,
you
you know,
guys,
make
you
it
guys
seem like it's
go
a
through it.
minimal thing, but it's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
not
yeah.
minor. Like, you know, you bumped your toe on the
Right.
edge of the bed. It's not. It's definitely not that. You know, it's one of those pains. Like I can remember one crisis in particular where I was walking to the bathroom. I was in the hospital, and it literally felt like my blood flow just stopped,
Wow.
and in my knees, and my knees locked, and I just was in so much pain. I cried. I cried. I could not sit still, no matter how much I moved and massaged it. Nothing helped. Nothing felt like it was alleviating the pain at all. And so, trust me, it is not a pain that you want to have to deal with on a daily basis. But we as patients, we do it, and we do it gracefully. And I'm, you know, I'm excited. I'm proud to be a warrior. I mean, I think this is, you know, even though I'm on the other side of it all now, I'm excited to still be a worry in all of this. So
And so
grateful.
you said in your bio that you
Mhm.
went from 3 to 4
Yes, ma'am.
crises a year to them starting to come a lot more regular.
Yes.
And
So, mhm.
no, go ahead.
So yeah. So after about 2012, I had developed pneumonia in both lungs, and my lungs collapsed, and I was in a medically induced coma that the doctors put me in because I wasn't breathing on my own. Machines were breathing for me, and for about 12 days, I was not alive to the world.
Wow.
And once I came out of that coma after, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, I attempted to go back to work, but my body just was not allowing me to. And so at the time I was working and I lost my job because, they told me, we love you, but we hired you to do a job and you can't do it. And so I understood and I didn't hold a grudge or anything. But me living in Orlando at the time, I said, you know what? I'm doing this by myself. Me driving to the hospital in crisis is not okay. So I said, let me go back to New Jersey and be with family. And that transition from warm weather almost all year round to, seasonal weather, it didn't sit well with my body. And so my crises started to amp up. And that was 2013 and 2014, me getting active with the Sickle Cell Association of New Jersey. I discovered the bone marrow transplant. My mom told me about it when we went to one of their symposiums, and I was anti-transplant. I did not want to do it. No, my mom was like, no, let's try, let's talk to the doctor at least. And I said, okay, whatever. I talked to him, and he was pleasant, he was great. We met with his nurse, we sat down. Him being the pediatric hematologist, he said, all right, you're an adult, so I'm gonna transfer you to or refer you to my colleague who's the adult provider who does transplant. But he spelled it out for me, what it would look like, what it would be like. They tested my sister and my mom, hoping that my sister would be a full match to myself. And they're telling me all of this, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm not doing this. Y'all can say what y'all want to say, but I'm not doing this. And that was in December of 2014. And around March, I got a phone call from Hackensack saying that we found a match for you. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I hung up the phone. And my mom, she called me into the living room. She's like, oh, by the way, did you hear back from anybody? I was like, oh, yeah. They called, but I'm not doing it. She's like, hey, are you serious? I was like, no, I'm not doing it. So she's like, all right, what do you have to lose? I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let me go talk to this doctor. So we made an appointment to see my provider now, and he just explained everything in full detail. His humor, excuse me, his bedside manner, everything about him and his colleagues were just great. So I said, you know what? I'll give it a try. And so my mom looked to me, I looked to the doctor, and I said, all right, I'll do it. So they said that even though my sister was we had the same mom and dad, she's a half match to myself. So they went to the registry and they
The Be the
discovered
Match registry
the
that we're
Be the
talking
Match
about
registry.
today.
Yes.
Okay.
They went to the registry and they found 8 out of 10 match to me. They said at the time they were going to still keep looking to find someone else, but up until about July, August, they still hadn't found anybody.
Okay.
So they reached out to the doctor, to the donor, to see if he was still willing to donate, because they don't know what time or how old or how long ago he entered the registry. And around August, he still said yes, he'll do it. I think there's 3 check-ins that they have to do with the donor, and each and every check-in, he kept saying, yes, I'll donate, yes, I'll donate. So around the end of August, I was admitted because I was in crisis, but I said, all right, let me just get through this crisis. And around that same time, we were getting ready to do all of the prep work for transplant. So because I was already admitted and I was, gotten through the crisis that I was going through, my doctor said, okay, you're here, let's just get you going. Let's start this process. So they did the blood exchange to get my hemoglobin as high as possible. And from there, I was, discharged. And around the top of September, the end of August, top of September, I was admitted again to do the first round of medications to prep my body for transplant. And I had a reaction every single day to that medication. But
Wow.
made it through, discharged once more. And then finally, I was admitted for my transplant. I took pictures with my marrow. I was so excited. But I thought it was going to be more, intensive than what it was. But it really was just like getting a blood transfusion. A large bag of blood is what it was. So it was painless for me. But for when I talked to my donor, he did say, the process of extraction was a little painful for him. He was tired for a couple of weeks after, but up until now, he has no complications, no issues since, and that was almost 5 years ago. So,
Wow.
Even though my transplant experience was not easy, and that's only because I didn't know how sick I was prior to transplant.
Okay.
Between 2012 and 2014, 15, a lot happened to my body. And during that process, I did not know I had silent strokes going on in my brain. I did not know how difficult transplant would be. And that was because I didn't have all of the proper, neurological screenings, MRIs, transcranial Dopplers that should be routinely done. They were no longer being done for me. And so transplant picked all of that up, and it really made my process a lot harder, a lot difficult. But looking back on it, almost 5 years later, I would not change it for the world.
You would not change it for the world, everything you went through.
Yep.
So this is good news.
Yep. I'm excited. I mean, here I am, I talked to a lot of patients who did do transplant. A lot of them had siblings who were their donors or family members. And, I don't know anybody else like me who had an unrelated donor. And so it is different because I had to get used to him, and it is a him. He's a white man, but getting used to him, meaning I had to get used to his blood type. My blood type changed. I went from being A positive to O positive.
Wow. Okay.
I did take some of his allergies,
Wow.
but I'm kind of sort of okay with that now. But for the most part, it's just it's not anything mentally changing. I'm still the same Kay-Diene that I've always been, older, of course, but nothing else really changed other than, me just being a person now living without sickle cell.
Okay, so you said a whole lot there, and I heard loud and clear that you are now a person living without sickle cell. You also said that your donor, who was an 8 out of 10 match,
Yes.
was a white male,
Yes.
unrelated.
Yes.
So you are just kicking out all of the little, talking points that we have. I mean, we are in a campaign for Black Americans age 18 to 44 because of the likelihood of a closer match. But you just kicked all of that off the table here. You have a white male donor who was an 8 out of 10 match, and you're 5 years removed and doing pretty well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, September 11th, I'll be 5. I'm still getting vaccines that, I have to re-get. But for the most part, I'm good. I think because one thing about transplant, in order to give you your new marrow, they have to suppress your immune system. And they do that by giving you chemo. And depending on where you go and depending on the protocol you're following, that will determine which type of chemo you get. But I received 1 round, 2 different drugs. And with that, my immune system was completely wiped out. So all of the vaccines that I received as a child, all of the colds, flus that I got when I was younger, I'm pretty much starting a clean slate. And that's one of the things that was difficult for me was the infections, because I have no immune system now. And, so getting back to getting vaccinated again, getting the MMRs and all of the flu vaccines, which you're supposed to do yearly, but, getting them plus, polio and
Right.
yeah, all of those childhood vaccines that you have to get for school, redoing them. So it's like being a kid again.
So, fast forward to 2020, August 2020,
Yes, ma'am.
COVID-19 is a real thing.
Oh, yes.
So can you talk briefly, because I do want to talk about the registry and even how this could be a reality for other people.
Mhm.
But can you talk about your COVID-19 experience post-transplant and what your concerns are, what your provider team has put in place, if anything? I don't know, we didn't talk about this before, but are you able to speak to that at all?
Sure. So this is a unique situation for me. I discovered that even though I have a spleen inside my body, it is non-functioning. But because it's not bothering me, they don't feel a need to take it out. But because of that, a lot of my vaccines didn't take.
Mm.
So I have to get revaccinated this
God.
flu season for a lot of the pneumonia vaccines that I got already because of my lack of spleen. Because when they did their titers, my blood testing, they saw that my levels were not as high as they're supposed to be.
Mm.
So as a preparation for COVID and the flu season, particularly, my doctor and nurse felt like it was a good idea to get some of the vaccines, the pneumonia vaccines and others, especially the flu vaccine, and really be cognizant of, okay, make sure you're wearing a mask, you're washing your hands more frequently than normal. Yes, you're 5 years out, but still be extra cautious because your lungs are already damaged from the
Right.
pneumonia in 2012. You already have gone through transplant. You want to make sure that you're not around anyone that could make you sick. So traveling, let us not. We're not
Yeah.
going to try that. That's pretty much what my precautions have been.
Okay.
But other than that, it's still, just the typical hand washing, 20
Sure.
seconds, wearing a mask. I mean, me living in New Jersey now, I think it's a little bit safer, and I want to use that word very loosely.
Sure.
But safer because, we kind of have things a little bit more under control compared to other states.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's still, don't think you're going to go to a party and
Zoom parties.
hang out just because. Like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but that's
so
pretty much it.
this is amazing. And I hear about transplants all the time being in this sickle cell community, but your story is intriguing.
Thank
And one day, okay, so you have not
Mhm.
met face to face your donor, correct?
No, I have not. We email. I mean, once I found, because after we did my transplant, we were told they asked me if I wanted to meet my donor. And I said, of course I do. And so, they said, well, depending on where he lives in the world, will determine how long of a wait you have. And so to meet him. So if it was 2 years, if he was outside of the United States, it was a 2-year wait. And if he was within the United States, it's a 1 year post transplant. And so December of 2016, I got an email from one of the coordinators at Hackensack saying, we found your donor.
Mm.
I was so excited. I called my mom. She was in another room like, Ma, guess what? I found him. And so, we got permission. He gave all of his information, name, phone number, address at the time. I'm not sure if he still lives there, but he lives right in Maryland.
Wow.
And so we email back and forth ever so often. I've sent him birthday cards, Christmas cards, but I have yet to, meet him face to face. I do want to, though.
Oh, and I want to too. My gosh. I want to
So.
meet him too. One of the things, because, the As One Foundation, our mission was sickle cell trait focused.
Yes.
So when I started learning about the bone marrow transplant, I learned that a lot of times the sickle cell, the SS warriors, when they undergo the transplant, they actually turn into or become trait warriors
Yes.
because their match is usually a person living with sickle cell trait. And there you go. There's another one you just completely just threw out of the table. Your donor is not trait positive.
Nope.
So you have no trait,
no trait,
no sickle cell
no sickle cell
at all.
at all. I think it was December, and 28 days post transplant, I was 100% engrafted. So I had fully accepted my donor.
Wow.
And I was 100% him after 28 days.
Wow.
And that same year, December, I got my first chimerism test. And, he said, you have 0 sickle cells on that paper. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
I have no sickle cells. It was a very tearful moment.
Kay-Diene, so how does it feel? I mean, do you feel, what comes to mind is the 60 Minutes interview with the young lady that was wrestling and just doing, do you remember the interview I'm talking about?
I do.
I mean, how do you feel with no sickle cell in your blood anymore?
It was an adjustment. I mean, it wasn't an overnight, revelation like, oh my gosh, I don't have sickle cell anymore. It did take time because the recovery from 2012's first coma, the second coma I was in, and just recovering from transplant and living with sickle cell for 26 years, it was a long recovery to get through. But once I realized, like, wait a minute, I'm not in pain. My headaches are normal headaches. Yes, I have migraines, but they're normal migraines that you get.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do have a vascular necrosis of the knee, which will have to, get replaced soon or one day, but hopefully not anytime soon. But other than that and other, minor hiccups that are manageable right now, I think it feels good.
Yeah.
Like I can finally say 4 years, almost 5 next month, that it feels good.
Crisis free.
Yes, it feels great.
Well, so you bring me back to our purpose for being here. As I said, the As One Foundation is involved in an effort. The theme is we are the cure, and that is the we is the warriors, the Black Americans. We are the cure, even though that is not Kay-Diene's particular outcome. The Be the Match registry really needs to grow. We need to add Black Americans to the registry, particularly 18 to 44 years old. So if you want to be someone, and I'm talking specifically to our listeners who are listening live as well as replays, are you interested in possibly saving a life? Possibly rendering a person that has lived in pain for 26 years, rendering them pain-free by a donation of bone marrow. This is not a donation of a kidney or a heart, a body part. This is marrow. And you heard Kay-Diene, her donor is recovered, she is recovered, and is thriving. And this is how you get the opportunity. Just register to be a donor. And it doesn't mean that you are giving your blood, your bone marrow tomorrow. You could sit in that registry for multiple years until a Kay-Diene shows up or someone else. And you could be a match for someone in your family. It is a very simple process. First, you can visit, and we'll put this website in the comments, but it's join.bethematch.org/SC3 as one. And SC is sickle cell, and it's 3 because it's Sickle Cell Community Consortium, 3 C's. And then as one for the As One Foundation. That is the link that you can use to enter. You go directly to a Google form, you complete the form, a kit is mailed to you, and it has 2 Q-tips in it. So you swab the inside of your jaw, put the Q-tip back in the envelope, mail it back, and voila, you are in the registry. They are, they will test your DNA, and you will sit in there, and in the event a Kay-Diene shows up in need of a match, you could be the match, and that is when you'll get the call. And even when you get the call, it doesn't mean you say yes. And as you heard Kay-Diene say, her donor was asked 3 different times, right?
Yes, I believe it was 3 different times.
Right. So hopefully you will say yes on the first time and continue to say yes, but we need the numbers. We need the numbers of Black Americans in particular. Now, with all of that said, what I know about genetics is that we are all more genetically alike than different, regardless of skin color. So this is a message to all of my non-Black listeners and viewers. You are welcome to register as well. As you see, Kay-Diene is proof that a non-ethnic match, was an 8 out of 10. So, however the science works itself out, we need more donors to increase the probability of that higher match. So again, that website is join.bethematch, all spelled out, .org/SC3 as one. Or you can actually text SC3 as one to 61474. SC3 as one to 61474, and we'll put that in the comments as well. Before we close, we're a couple minutes over. I just need to let you know that the As One Foundation is also celebrating September, which is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, by promoting this effort, this We Are the Cure effort, to raise the registry participation of Black Americans for Be the Match. But we're also doing something fun. So for the month of September, beginning the 1st all the way through the 30th, please join us. It is a fundraiser, but it's also a fitness raiser. Join us for our We Run as One virtual sickle cell challenge. And that challenge, we are challenging you to run or walk 53 miles for the entire month. We have the cyclers that have chimed in, so they're going to cycle 53 miles per week. You're going to step 5,300 steps per day. Or you're going to add 53 ounces of hydration to your daily consumption of water. And all of this is for our We Run as One virtual sickle cell challenge fundraiser. The significance of 53 is the fact that our founder, DeVar Darling's identical twin brother, Devon, they both are sickle cell trait warriors, but Devon lost his life to exertion, rhabdomyolysis, and dehydration back in 2001 as a football athlete at Florida State. So everything we do is to honor Devon's memory, and 53 was his football number, so that is the significance of 53. And to just pile it on, earlier this year, actually the very same day that we lost Kobe Bryant, we lost Devon and DeVard's mom, Miss Wendy, as we affectionately call her. And her birth year happened to be 1953. So now, both in honor of a mother and son, Devon and Miss Wendy Darling, we use the number 53 to just honor their memory and to raise fund and awareness. So $53 registration, it's a fundraiser, but you get something back. The first 500 registrants will receive a race medal, a race t-shirt, a custom bib, race bib, and some other items in the swag bag. So the website is bit.ly/We Run as One, and that's the number 1. bit.ly, bit.ly/We Run as One. Again, all of these websites and links will be included in our comments. Kay-Diene, I like to give my guests the last word, so I'll just say thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so elated for you. I'm so excited for what the next 30, 40, 50 years will bring. And I hope to, I would love to be a part of that moment when you actually do meet your donor. Thank you,
Thank
whoever
you.
you are, you nameless person, but
Yeah.
you beautiful person, for giving Kay-Diene life. Thank you so much for that. So the last words to you.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Austin. I appreciate it. So everyone who's listening and watching, donate. That's all I can say is donate, whether it's blood, marrow, just donate. You can save not only my life, which I'm a testament to that, but you could be the change you wish to see in the world by just donating.
You can be the change by
That is
being
the
the
quote
match.
I live by. Yeah.
Okay, so we are here most Tuesdays for Warrior Talk Tuesday. We will not be here next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, we are looking forward to actually doing an unboxing of the Be the Match kit with our founder, DeVar Darling, who is a trait warrior. But guess what? If you have trait, you can donate. Hey,
Yes.
that rhymed.
Yep.
You can donate. So don't think just because you have sickle cell trait, you can. So go to the website, click the links, and join us back here the second Tuesday of September for Warrior Talk Tuesday. Thank you so much, Kay-Diene.
Thank
Everyone
you so
else,
much
we'll
for
see you
having
in
me.
a couple of weeks. Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.